Yo, 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 what's up? It's a Rojo Cova here, back again with another live stream. Today we have a special stream. I have another guest this time. I'm gonna have a lot more guests, or I'm gonna try to get more guests on my live stream because I don't really like sitting here talking to myself a lot, and I like having conversations with people who do the same thing as me and have the same passion as me, as making comics and drawing and everything like that. So, um, that's what we're going to be doing from now on when I go live. I'm still going to be doing my video essays and stuff like that. But um, yeah, this is what we got going on. Um, and then also in the last like 10, 15 minutes, I'll take questions from everybody. If anybody has questions for our guest today. But before we get into that, I'm going to just, do some quick little promos. Uh, so if you don't know, I'm a comic book creator myself. You go to my website, the link's in the description. I have all my comics up there for free. I reformatted my whole website, so now you can just go in there and just download my last two comics I put out this year for free. My comic, my Nobody Safe comic, you can get the a physical copy right now. I only have like 2 copies left, so if you want to get a copy, you can. I also have stickers. You can sign up for my mailing list, so whenever I do drop another YouTube video or a comic, you can know when it comes out. And yeah, so today we have a comic book extraordinaire, somebody who I just met within this last year. His website is Jeremy Hyler. He's done some amazing comics this year. A lot of great stuff we're going to be talking about today, but here's his website. The link is also in the description. So is his Instagram. So go give him a look and check him out. But he's done some great Batman comics, Godzilla, Team NT comics, and they're amazing. So I'm going to bring Jeremy in here right now. That. All right. So we got Jeremy here.
Hey, how you doing?
What's up, man? I appreciate you for joining us. I appreciate you for coming to the channel, giving me your free time on a Tuesday night. So speaking of the Batman books, tell me a little bit about like your process and your like what made you start doing these Batman comics, especially what your thought process was into going to making these books.
Sure. So I recently just started doing comics at the beginning of the year, right? So my
Hmm.
first thoughts were, let me go ahead and do something that is everyone knows Batman.
Yeah.
So I was like, I could go in and jump in right into my own IP, but I was like, well, I want to get visibility first. So how can I build visibility? How about I utilize the most popular character probably in the medium for the last 80 years, right?
Yeah.
So my process was, let me get to do that. And I started in December, kind of just hashing out what the story was going to be. I had this idea of what I wanted to do. I wanted to create essentially like a Batman for every season. And
Yeah.
that's where that core idea sprung from. So obviously I was in winter, so I was like, well, might as well knock out the winter story now. And then it just kind of fell in place like, okay, well, I'll do the spring one in spring, I'll do the summer one in summer, and now I'm actually starting the fall one now.
Sweet.
So that was the idea where that all came from. And then I would collectively have at least 80 to 100 pages of a collected story of just 1 year in Batman's life, which I've now dubbed Batman Year None.
Oh wow.
So,
That's
so
sweet.
since it's a bootleg, it's the year that did exist, but it exists for me. And it's kind of like just seeing the journey of me as an artist from the start of 1 year. So, yeah.
Yeah. Sweet. That's cool. And it's actually pretty interesting because I did the same thing like with as you. So
Mhm.
I started getting into comics, a couple years ago and whatever. We'll talk about it later. But I did the same thing where I finished like a original story in March and I was like, okay, what else do I want to do? I want to try to do something that's more can get more eyes on myself. So I started the Nobody Safe comic, which is another bootleg, but it's Spider-Man now, which is the
Mhm.
same other side of the coin of Batman. Spider-Man, who is like, just as popular, has been around just as long, or maybe a little bit less time, but just as relevant. And I was just like, it just makes more sense to do something that people are more drawn towards and want to check out. So that's why, like, if you look on Instagram, when people do fan art, they tend to get more eyes on their fan art than they would with their own original characters. So it's interesting that how we kind of came on the same wavelength, where it's like, all right, we're just going to do something that makes sense, that people are going to look towards, and then if our product or our art is what it's supposed to be, or like up to par to their own liking, they're gonna stay and gravitate towards us. So, but I mean, with my book, it's a little more different because Well, your books, they're all just silent. There's,
Mhm.
here like one or two, like I think the ones that aren't the Batman books have dialogue, but the Batman books are just straight silent films. I see them as more like short, yeah, like silent films, or like they could be animations or something like that without the dialogue and just straight, the way you draw your pacing, the way you do like everything. The story beats is so amazing. So what like how did you come about with that idea of just I don't want no dialogue, I just want straight action or straight mood and just that's it? How did you come up with that idea or concept?
Sure. So, when I was diving into it initially, I was like, well, let me get familiar with doing interior pages and sequential art, and
Yeah.
I come from a film background, so
Mhm.
I was always a cinematographer or editor in most the film projects that I ever worked on. And out of that meant I would typically storyboard kind of the flow of the sequences. And that's where it kind of like sprung from. Is like, well, I wanted to be a comic book artist, but I went into the film industry. But now I'm bringing that what I've learned in the film industry back over here. And if I can create a dynamic story without actual words where people could read it and add their own details, that was where I was kind of putting that into perspective for me. That gives
Mhm.
me the ability to think about beats, mood, action, you name it.
Yeah.
So, like you said, it is kind of like building on a silent picture, a silent film, because it is in black and white too. So it kind of plays
Yeah.
into that factor of like, can I tell an engaging story without words? That was the main goal.
Wow, that's sweet because that's like a key component to sequential storytelling in general. Like if you're able to like tell the story without any words and people are able to just follow along like seamlessly without you having to like read back or and everything like that, then that's great that you're able to get that concept down. Obviously you've been working in film and stuff like that. For me, what I would do or what I've been doing the last like couple years since I've been getting back into drawing and getting back into making comics and stuff like that was I just read so many comics and also, I watch a lot of movies as well. And I would just pick on certain aspects that would make sense to bring into my own work. And the same thing as you is like learning how to do these sequential sequences, doing the interior pages. I always would like harp on like, how do I make the mundane scenes or these like boring parts of comics
Mhm.
where people are just having conversations, drinking coffee, or making food in the kitchen? How do I make those more elaborate and make them where it's not just a boring part where it's just like a six panel grid of everybody just talking, going back and forth, back and forth? That was something I remember, or I even to this day I still think about like, okay, how do I make that more engaging and keep the readers entertained or whoever's reading it, or even myself, because when you get to those action scenes, those at least for me, it's like I can knock those pages out and I can knock 3 pages out in a day, if I'm have all the time in the world. But when
Yeah.
it comes to the scene where I'm like trying to get them, the exposition or whatever of the story, I'm just like, damn, like like one page will take me a couple more, way more longer because I'm just like, all right, I don't want this to be boring, but I also, you know, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like,
No.
so I think it's great that how you're able to do that without any words and without anything, but you're able to feel the mood. You're able to feel what you're conveying. You know what I'm saying? Each story is slightly different, but it's also you kind of see now this is the Jeremy's like formula, especially now you're on your third Batman book. It's
Yeah.
snow, heat, and then the rain.
Yep.
So I mean that's amazing. So when it comes to making comics and stuff like that, what is your like influences? Who are you reading? Who are you looking at and stuff like that?
Oh, wow. So, some of the people that, when they describe my work, I'm like, oh, I should go read that person because I've had to kind of fall back in to
Yeah,
comics, with everything kind of going on in the last few years with, the world kind of just everyone getting locked down. And then that's where I found that iPad again. But that's also
yeah,
where my passion for art came back. And then watching the Kayfabe channel, learning about
mhm,
all these, books and artists and stuff that I was kind of catching up on, or stuff that I read in the past. So I was having to catch
yeah,
up to some of those influences. But I've had people, and I can see those influences now the more I draw.
uh,
But I'm a huge Toriyama fan.
oh yeah,
Through and through, I got the Dragon Ball shirt on today. I
hell
mean,
yeah,
that's the biggest thing. So some storytelling elements, action sequences, I can definitely tell that flavors in there. Um, I've had someone describe a piece of my work as Kevin Eastman, which is also a huge major influence as well. The
uh-huh,
Turtle Boys, that stuff has always kind of just been a part of me. But then there's like some modern artists that have kind of leaked through me as well. Daniel Warren Johnson's an incredible
yeah,
artist, especially when it comes to action sequences and
yeah,
pieces like that. But there's other artists that just kind of slowly get into me. I've become a huge Otomo fan in the last few years, seeing
Mhm.
how he puts things together, action sequences, pacing, dialogue, direction on that size and those scales. I could just see it, just little blips here and there, just kind of just start to gravitate into my art style. And I'm like, oh, someone last night said I could see an Otomo face in that picture I did with Jar Jar Binks, and I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
that's interesting. Like I didn't think about that, but now when I
Mhm.
look at it, I'm like, you know what? It kind of is like that. So those little things just kind of the inspirations of the world and the comics kind of seep through. But I liked us my Spider-Man when I was growing up. Obviously, we had John Romita Jr. and stuff like that. Huge influence to me. Loved the blockiness in the fingers. Mike
Yeah.
Wieringo, he was also another one. He had a
Mhm.
very cartoony style. But I like Steve. I can never say his last name correctly. Steve Skro.
Nah, I'm
Um,
not sure.
he's incredible artist, but he's what made me fall in love with comics in like 1996, 97. The way he was designing Spider-Man, he did like a 4 to 5 issue run on in there that was really slick, and then he was off doing the Matrix work with Jeff Darrow and stuff for the
Oh, wow.
Wachowskis. Yeah.
Well, that's dope, and that yeah, it's interesting because, like, your story 'cause I was reading your blog earlier, and I was just reading, like, all your little blurbs you have in each your book, you like, a little update and stuff, which is I find pretty interesting and, opens up to who you are, you know what I'm saying? And, it's interesting how the same your story with getting back into art during like the pandemic is similar to mine because I did the same thing as well. Before that, I was just really into like working out, playing basketball. I mean, I love comics and still I was in the comics really big in the middle school, kind of fell off, but I always was like, an MC was going on when I was in high school and middle school. So that kept me in the loop of like comics and stuff like that. Whenever I would see something like on Facebook and like, oh, this is a good comic, I'll go buy it, even though I wasn't a collector still, but I was always was around. Same thing with anime manga has it as it's
Hmm.
grown in popularity through these last like 5 years. I was there to see it grow into where it was, even though before it was popular, I was into like Dragon Ball and Naruto and stuff like that before it became what it is now, where it's just as big as American comics. And so I think it's interesting how that like the pandemic was good and bad for people, obviously. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, for me, I got an iPad also, and I was just like, I'm just gonna start drawing and just see where it goes from here. And then I started finding all of these like pages on Instagram and stuff like that. And I would start drawing and drawing and drawing every day pretty much since 2020. And now we get to today where I found, all these YouTube pages and I started getting, all these books and, I have long boxes in my closet. And I'm like, oh, I'm just picking, all these artworks and artists and trying to see how they do this and how they do that. And now we get to today where you have been putting out all these books in the last year. I finally got my first real physical copy book, and I'm getting that Nobody Safe copy out of the box from the mailer, and I was like, damn, this is crazy. Like, like
Yeah.
2 years ago, I wasn't thinking this. I was like, I'm gonna do a web comic or I'm gonna do this and that, and then your aspirations get bigger and bigger as you more confidence you grow. To now, I'm like, okay, I think I can start charging people for artwork. I'm starting to get back into traditional work where now I'm like,
Hmm.
and then nothing is like feels the same as when you start getting back in traditional work where you're like putting the ink on the blue line or whatever you're doing. You're like, damn, that shit is crazy. Like it looks cool and stuff like that. And that's how I'm seeing it. And like, it's also cool because now I'm seeing somebody like you who I'm like, damn, he's doing the same thing that I'm doing. Like he's like, I'm not crazy now. Like I know because you're doing, and now you're actually starting to get more your recognition and stuff like that. And I think that's, that's super sick. And it's like, it's inspirational because now I'm like, okay, I'm not doing just wasting my time or I'm not doing nothing that isn't, fruitfulness or whatever the word is. But
Yeah.
so yeah, speaking of your well, before we get to that, so Dragon Ball Z, I see you post Dragon Ball stuff on your story all the time and stuff. So what does Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball in general mean to you? Because I saw you post on your blog about when
Oh.
Toriyama died and stuff like that and all that stuff. So I know you're a huge fan. So let's talk about some Dragon Ball right now.
Oh man. So, well, I got to ask you right away. Who's your favorite character?
Oh, it's Trunks, Future Trunks
Oh,
specifically. I
that's a that's
love
a
Trunks. When I seen him
that's a good pick.
with the sword, Super Saiyan with the sword, I was like, oh, it's over with the jacket. He had the clean fit. I was like, that's my guy, man.
So I've been rewatching it with my son. He's 6 years
Mm.
old now, and we've been watching Dragon Ball Kai. And he
Oh
was
yeah,
into
nice.
it, and he's like, "Oh, I like this character." But then we got to where Trunk showed up,
Hmm.
and then he was like, "Who's this guy?" And then immediately he saw what he did to Frieza, and he
Oh yeah,
immediately
so
he's
cool.
like, number one fan already.
Yeah, I love
So
Trunks.
and my characters I love. I love Piccolo. I love the
Oh,
stoicness. I
Piccolo's
love
yeah,
the
that's a good
character
one.
change. He
Mhm.
goes, from Dragon Ball. He's supposed to be this character, right? He's supposed to be King Piccolo's descendant who's supposed to live his legacy. And then by the end of the series, he's found his own footing.
Yeah.
He's healed. I
Mhm.
love I love the journey that's there. And a lot of people, they try to give Dragon Ball flack, but there's so much that happens through character development that is just lost on people because it was it's a more action packed or something like that. But
Yeah.
Dragon Ball's been a part of my life probably a little bit before it got on Toonami.
Mhm.
There's, I had this local channel that was playing some of I think the VHSs that were like you could find like at KB Toy Store and stuff like that before they started doing the Toonami run, which made them explode everywhere. But
Yeah.
I was seeing those golden releases, and when I was watching those, I was like, "This is something unique and different." And then it was like that thing that just tapped in the back of my head. There was a game on the NES called Dragon Power, which was
Mhm.
for the American market, but it was actually a Dragon Ball game, but no one knew that. So it was
Yeah.
like it was always there since I was like a kid, and since then, like I just been a huge Dragon Ball Toriyama fan. From Doctor Slump to Sandland, all that stuff. But Dragon Ball essentially is like just so ingrained in our culture that I think it gets a little lost on people
Mhm.
because it is so big.
Yeah.
But the way he did storytelling in it, the way he did action, the way he did character designs, all that stuff has always been really reflective for me as like, man, I got to be able to figure out how he tapped his code. And like, I'll find
Mhm.
something new every time I draw a book. Like when I was doing the Godzilla book, I was like, man, architecture is really tough. And then I would like look at like Toriyama and how he would do some shorthand, and it's
Yeah.
like rounded buildings.
Yeah,
I don't have to
simplify
work.
it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
he would, or the worst case scenario, let's just get him out to the desert.
Yep, 100%. Desert, outer space, something like that, or
Yeah,
a
right.
random planet that's more rural than city orientated. That's crazy because with Dragon Ball for me is like Dragon Ball was around my whole life pretty much, but I think the first time I really acknowledged or knew what Dragon Ball Z was because of the video games. The
Yeah.
Budokai, Tenkaichi video games. I remember my brother had all of them and I would play with them and I was like, man, this is so cool. What is this? And then I remember watching the series and reading the manga and I was like, dude, this is so dope. But I think Dragon Ball is like a generation ahead of me, or behind me, whatever. I don't know what, the older generation, because for
Mm,
me, I feel like how you feel about Dragon Ball is how I kind of feel about Naruto for my generation, where I grew up
yeah.
on Naruto and I was like, dude, this is my shit. I love the character development, da da da. I don't know if you've seen Naruto, but the latter part kind of gets a little iffy. But generally speaking, it's like the messaging and the storytelling and the artwork in that story really is ingrained in my being, especially like the things I love. I mean, I have like almost the full run of the originals
Mm,
manga back here. But Dragon Ball, I remember Dragon Ball being one of the first manga I picked up. I remember I had like the big old omnibus size of Dragon Ball and I remember watching it on YouTube back when before YouTube got all like strict. They had like episode one, part one, and like all the old episodes. I remember watching a lot of that. But Dragon Ball is a really a great series and something to look at where you can just see, like you said, the character development where Piccolo is just this big bad in Dragon Ball, and then Dragon Ball Z, he's taking care of Goku's son, you know what I'm saying? And then like same with Vegeta, where he's like the big bad, and he goes, and I think there's something to say about those type of stories where the storytelling evolves throughout time, and it never really flatlines. It always just gets more and more, and then obviously there's money gets behind it. It gets so popular, and everyone wants to die, but those core Dragon Ball volumes, the core Dragon Ball Z volumes, those are always going to be there and to always go back and reference, and it's always going to hold up the test of time, which is like what every creator wants, right? You want to be like the guy who's always look back on, you're like, oh man, that's so good, and you look at new stuff and everything like that. So I mean, that's pretty interesting. That's pretty cool. What's your favorite arc though on Dragon Ball?
ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, I'll probably gravitate to the Saiyan arc
Ooh, yeah,
as
that's a good one.
as
Mhm.
the main one because it's the essential,
Yeah.
most like streamlined story in there.
Hmm.
We get A to Z of problem, solution, problem, solution, problem,
Yeah.
which is what you need in the where I like it the most that I enjoy uh, is the Cell Saga.
Oh,
Um,
that's what I was gonna say. I would say the Android and Cell Saga are like my like, ooh, there's
yeah,
so many stakes, so much going on. All these characters is like that are introduced and they get killed and they brought back. That was like one of my favorite sagas. Also, I think like Android to Cell Saga are probably the best ones. The Majin Buu one is cool, but
yeah.
like I feel like the ones before that were just so much, like the androids. When you first introduce androids, they're just beating the shit out of everybody. And you're like, what the fuck is going on? And you don't think you can get any worse. And then Cell shows up, and he's killing the androids. You're like, oh my god, like I
and
always
I
love that saga.
and I think besides like I like Imperfect Cell 1 the most. Let's put it
Oh
out there.
yeah, yeah,
I think he's the
yeah.
best design and everything like
Mhm.
that, and most intrigue. But what I think I something I also fell in love as a creator now as time goes on is like how old are you, Kova?
I'm 26.
Okay, so I'm 39. So like
Mhm.
I'm that generation you said before, right? So,
Yeah,
my boy Evan, who I grew up with, he was getting in Naruto and I just couldn't. I was like, ah man, I'm a Dragon Ball head. I like
yeah.
Cowboy Bebop. So I was in that
Mhm.
mode, but after that, like I realized like the early web gave us so much information about the development of Dragon Ball compared to any other
Mhm.
manga and
Yep.
anime series ever. So I know so much in-depth stuff about it because it was collected so heavily.
Yep.
So like
Mhm.
the development, like knowing how editors like ma- were the reason why things changed
Yeah, the
throughout the
artistic
series,
direction and
right?
stuff like that
Like the
also.
art,
Yep.
the character, like
Mhm.
just like okay, we can't have him fighting this old guy and this clown guy, and they're like, okay,
Mhm.
well, I'll make two new androids, and they're like, well, that's kind of boring. He's like, okay, well, I got this other character, it's a bug guy, and they're like, well, the bug's kind of weird looking, and then he evolves him, and then it's like, well, can we make him more pretty? And like the development behind the stage of how things got created,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
works in packaging, it's very unique to that experience that I've fallen more in love with the series because of like seeing what he had to go through, the time he
Mhm.
spent, realizing he basically had 3 hours a week off
Yeah,
to himself under that type of schedule for 10 years. But people think about that 10 years, but he also did Dr. Slump for like 5 years before that. So this is a
yeah.
15-year run. The only time he got time off was going on a honeymoon and then for a week and coming back and starting Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
The guy was a machine.
Yeah.
So
All those mangaka are crazy. Like even now when I see people who are like, I want to be a manga and go to Japan, I'm like, I don't know why you would want to do that because like that type of work ethic is just like you don't even get to enjoy what you're making until after the fact. And then by the time they're done, most of them end up, passing away at a very young age, or like 50, 60. And it's like that's so sad. But like yeah, that the way that Dragon Ball evolved is like I feel like it came out in such like that awkward time where it's like mangas, anime, it's that weird, like, what was that? Hentai, you know what I'm saying? Like they kind of
mm,
correlated with the squids and the girls with the skirts and stuff like that. But Dragon Ball was kind of like the outlier that people kind of like, oh, this is cool, but like whatever. And then as time progresses and manga got popular, it still was there and was it grew with the culture and where now it's like it's obviously OG, it's legacy. Dragon
oh
Ball
yeah.
Z is just like the legacy. You can't touch that type shit. And then now it's like Naruto's next. It's like or at least for me, and I mean, and it's the same thing as you. Like now, I saw Naruto go and grow and stuff like that, and now it's still, as a sequel series with the son and stuff like that, which is kind of cool. Whatever, even though I don't
Mhm.
watch no more and stuff like that, but I think it's still cool that that's came about and things. And then the same thing where like there's videos coming out where you talk about the process and how the creator was going through with him and his editor and how they built this world up and everything like that. So I think it's just really cool and also like I started getting the anime at the younger age before it got mainstream. So I like Cowboy Bebop, Inuyasha, Full
Yeah.
Metal Alchemist, like all the
Yeah.
old like late early '90s, late 2000s. I was on early, and then now I see it, everybody's getting onto. So I think it's pretty cool how it's like evolved into the social stratosphere. Now everybody's super into anime, manga, stuff like that. But yeah, so let me see, let me see, let me see, let me see, let me see. So you were able to put out freaking what 4 or 5 books out this year, and you're just like me, which like I said, like when I see your stories, like damn, like this guy's doing the same thing I'm doing, like or I feel pretty attached to you, what you are going to. You got 2 kids, you're married, you got a day job and stuff like that, but you're able to put out 5 comics, right? And
Mm.
I feel like that is a testament to just hard work and just dedication, and I've been like I was reading your blog, you're like, oh, I'm staying up after everybody goes to sleep, I'm staying up and I'm drawing, I'm staying up and doing that, and I'm like I was doing the same thing. I was like, this is crazy how this guy's like literally just doing the same shit I'm doing. So now, and I'm seeing how, like I said, you're getting the success. And I'm like, okay, I'm on the right path to do the right thing. So how are you able to keep up with that productivity? Or like, how are you able to knock out these books at such a rapid pace where like some people it takes them a year, couple years, or whatever to knock out books? Like, what do you feel like is the thing that's keeping you like going, keeping this productivity level up?
So I feel like, and I think I've told this before to Brian Moss. I
Mhm.
feel like I'm having to make up for lost time.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to do comics when I was younger. And when I was trying to get into the industry then or go towards that path, Joe Kubert School was probably where I was looking at. But again, I couldn't really afford to get there. It was far away. I'm in North Carolina. It was,
Uh-huh.
up in PA. And then all my art teachers and stuff like that were like, you don't want to go into comics. You're not going to make money. You're going to hate it. It's a bad time to go in. And it was around 2001, 2002. The industry was kind of flopping a little bit, right? It was really
Uh-huh.
bad post 9/11. It was just not a good time to be in that medium. Now, give it 2 or 3 years later when The Walking Dead and everything, the resurgence starts
Yeah.
after that. So I was like, okay, let me do this. So I feel like I'm making up for that lost time. And for me
Mhm.
was I started with New Year's. I was like, all right, I'm gonna have a goal. I want to try to have 6 completed books by the end of the year.
Oh yeah.
I finished the fifth one. I just
Yeah.
started today on the sixth one. So my goal is to hopefully have that done mid October because it's a fall book.
Hmm.
It's a Halloween story essentially.
Oh,
So I want to have it ready for Halloween. That's my goal for that, and then that's where the methodology of seeing what the mega guys can do. If they can work all day, I can work all day. If
yep.
I can push myself to that limit, if I'm able to keep up with a pace, I do my day job. I'm out the door every morning with my kids at 6:45. I'm at my
Hmm.
desk at 7:30. I
Yep.
work till I'm done with that. I come home, get the kids their dinners, get them in bed, and then I take a power nap till about 8 to 9, 9:30. I get up, I draw from about 10 till 1 to 2 ish, and then I sleep and I'm
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's how I'm getting this stuff done. I do
Yep.
my own, I've already mapped out the next book completely. That was my goal today.
Hmm.
So now it's just translating it into, typically I do everything digitally, which is a faster way of getting
Yes.
things out,
100%. 100%. Hmm.
and that's how I'm doing that. Now I'm doing all the covers. I'm doing now more traditionally because I think I've really grown into loving traditional art. But
Yep.
if I want to keep the pace the way it is right now, digital is the way for me to keep that going.
Yep. That's crazy because same thing with me. So back when I started getting into comics and stuff like that, drawing, I had my first son in 2021, and then like I was just drawing and drawing, and then so what I would do is I had the baby carrier and just pop him on me and put him to sleep, and I would have him on my chest and just get the iPad, start drawing, just drawing and drawing until like whatever I was doing. Because when the first book I did was like an Instagram comic, so I was like just drawing just panel borders Instagram size, doing that. I did that for like 2 months, and then I was like, all right, I want to test my limits and I want to do like a actual comic. So I did like a little short web comic. I did put it on my website, and then I was like, all right, now I want to do an ongoing series. So
Mhm,
last year, my goal was I want to be able to drop a chapter a month for a year straight, and I was able to do that. I was able to get up to 11 chapters done all of 2023. Was it last year? 2023, all the way up till I think like December, and then I was like, I want to stop because I don't feel like my artwork was up to par. I just like, I don't think that I'm doing like I said, my skill level wasn't what I wanted to be. I was just drawing,
mhm,
but I wasn't actually like studying art. I wasn't really like studying how to do things to make it look like the way I wanted to. So I stopped. And I just was like, I'm gonna start studying stuff, start studying like anatomy, start studying perspective and blah 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 blah. And so now where I was like, okay, now I feel comfortable. And then I dropped one comic earlier this year. And then this year my goal was like, okay, I'm gonna just drop a bunch of like long form comics, but each story is gonna have a specific like not like the story isn't the like the goal, it's the artwork. Like so this my
mhm,
first story I did, I was like, okay, I want to make sure that it has certain elements that I want to see that I've been practicing on. So it was a horror comic called Strange Fruit Revenge. It's on my website, whatever. And
mhm,
I was like, I wanted to make sure I have like this pacing down. I want to have the elements of horror in there. So I was reading some horror comics, watching some horror movies, trying to see how I could get that, that mood and that feeling in there, as well as just practicing these perspectives and this anatomy that I was working on. I got that done by March. I started at things like February and March. Same thing. I was like 6 weeks. Kids go to bed, or I'm staying up from they go to bed probably like 8:30.
Hmm.
8:30 to 12, maybe 12:30. I'm drawing as many pages as I could do. I would front load everything. So I would do thumbnails, the script thumbnails. There wasn't really much of a script. So there's just thumbnails into inking, and that's it. And so I was able to knock that out. And then I did Nobody Safe, which for that one, I was like, okay, I'm going to Heroes Con this year. At 2023, I wanted to go, but I wasn't able to go. And so 2024, I was like, I'm going to go to Heroes. And so I want to have at least 20 something 20, the first half done so I can hand out to get some feedback. So that was my goal. And I was able to do that. And I was like, man, this is dope. And I was able to finish because it's 52 pages. So I got it done like a couple weeks ago. And so now, same as you, I'm starting to thumbnail my next book. And my new goal is now to have 100 pages under my belt, which I think I've already passed. But I'm
Hmm.
like, I want to have 100 like sequential pages of a comic done. So like this next one is going to be 40 pages. And the next comic I'm going to do straight traditional. And so I
Yeah.
think my goal was the same as you, is have it done by Halloween because it's another horror comic. But I was like, since I'm doing traditional and I'm still trying to get into the groove of it, I don't know if I'm going to have it done by then. But like I said, it's interesting because I feel like for successful comic book artists, at least in my mind, is there's three things you have to have. You have to have skill, you need to have productivity, and you need to have like a way of um productivity, skill, and then just like the mental fortitude of just getting it done. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people get hung up on these things that just don't make sense. Like, oh, I don't know, I don't draw that well, or I want to have the story just patting down. Where in me and Mike, and the last 3-4 years of me like just studying people and in the industry or whatever, the people around, I'm like seeing like just get it done. And then once you get it done, just move on and just move on, and don't fall in love with what you're doing, because if you made this, you can do the next thing. And I think that's the biggest thing where people are just like they don't they're too scared to finish, or they're too scared to start. Whereas like with you is like, fuck it, I'm just gonna start doing it. I'm gonna start going and then just get them shits done. And then from even like Snow is really good, but when I saw Heat compared to Snow is like night and day. Even though all three books are really good, but I'm like, He's like, damn, like that first page, the opening sequence, I'm like, oh wow, that's really good. All the way to the last page, even with the Godzilla book, like those two books out of the one you have stand out the most, because you can see that you're putting in the hours and you're just page, and I think that's really important for creators to do, especially like people who are coming up and starting out. You know what I'm saying? Like you're making,
Hmm.
like you said, you're making it for lost time. For me, I'm just trying to get back into it. And the same as you, where I'm probably like, I was like a year or two removed from where you are, where you kind of like, what I'm saying, you whatever. But I think that's pretty interesting. But speaking of Heroes Con, so how was your Heroes Con 2024? Because I know it was
Oh,
pretty exciting for you. Because I know how you were, and it was. Let's get into it. We'll talk about it later. But yeah, how was your Heroes Con this year?
well, first of all, I hate that I didn't get to see you there. But
See, it
we'll
was
we'll
yeah,
have to
that's,
link up.
yeah,
We'll have to link up next
yes.
time.
I'm going next year for sure. So we'll
Oh,
all
me,
see each other
yeah,
again.
yeah, for
I'm going
real.
next year. Mhm.
It was great. I went the first year back. So I'll even go further back. So the last time I went to Heroes Con was in like 2002. Like I said, it was a rough time, and even
Mhm.
then, it was like it wasn't much. I mean, there was artists there, but really, what I was there for, which is now frowned upon, was I was like a 15, 16-year-old kid. It was a huge market for bootleg VHSs from Japan. There were so many Japanese VHS dealers there, so I was there for my Dragon Ball
Yeah.
tapes and everything like that. And so I kind of just drifted away.
Uh-huh.
But in 2023, I went back. I got to go there, and this is when I was just kind of doing pinups, drawing here
Mhm.
and there, just to
Yeah.
pass the time. And I was like, you know what? I want to meet some of these artists that I've really gotten familiar with, and it was nice. But I went there with just like a business card saying, hey, I'm really into comics, but I also do video. So if you need help with any video work, reach out to me.
Yeah.
For the most part, people are like, oh, okay, and just went passively. But in 2024, I was like, all right, I had two books completed by then. Now
Mhm.
I had Rain done, but they didn't print in time.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
but I had like maybe 4 copies, and I wanted to make sure those people got those copies
Mhm.
instead of the big bulk ones. So I went there, and it was a type of thing where I would introduce myself to these artists. I would either buy some of their artwork and things like that. But I'd be like, "Hey, are you interested in my books?" And they would look at you like, "Oh, okay." And then as soon as you hand it to them, they would like immediately just open it up, and it was me being able to see their like surprise
Yeah,
immediately
yeah.
is where I got my excitement from, because this became the business card.
Mhm,
This became something real. And they were like, oh, okay, this
mhm.
is someone that's not messing around. And then I would tell them a little bit, they would ask my story and stuff like that. I was like, well, I haven't drawn in 20 plus years and et cetera. They're like, you hadn't done this in that long? Okay. And like, you just
Yeah.
started making books. So that's where it kept my energy going, and my excitement was like, okay, people who have been working in this industry way longer than I have, who got into the industry purely this way, they're seeing my work, they're seeing the storytelling, and they're like, okay, I can see your film background because your storytelling is really done well. So I think that's the thing that everyone that I've talked to is like, you have the storyteller, and that's what I want to be. Not just I can always keep growing as an artist. I can keep changing
Uh-huh.
styles and evolving who I am, but I want them to know that at the end of the day, I'm a storyteller. So I want to be able to write stuff and create something on the panel that is, story driven, and not just art on the page for the page, just for the
Yeah,
sake of the page. Um,
100%.
so so that was my excitement, was seeing it in the hands of people this year, and their feedback was like, man, yeah, let's go. So
Dope, yeah.
that kept me going, and that, I think that's why, out of that, the Godzilla book came out so easily. I think that's
Mhm.
why Heat came out so easily, and I can already tell you, this next Batman book, I'm so stoked for it right now.
Yeah, I'm ready, bro.
Each of them have a different energy and feel to it, because that's what I want. It's a playground. Each
Yeah.
book is a playground for me to, like, okay, here's the Snow is about mystery and action.
Mhm,
Rain is more action adventure. This last one is more high octane. Uh,
mhm, yep.
Speed. This next one's going to be more methodical, slow pace, but still with action in it. So that's kind of where I'm like playing around with each of those things in that medium. So
That's dope. That's really dope, man. So, for me, Heroes was, like, energetic. I was just like, I remember going, I was excited even before I even got there. I was like, I had those, like I said, I was doing this 24 pages done, and I was at work. I was like, I'm not gonna buy prints. I wasn't done with it yet, so I was like, I was at work printing out a bunch of copies and stapling them all together, getting all these little ash cans. I think I got one right here.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, all these little ash cans of it with my QR code in the back, and I was like, yeah, that's so cool, like it's so dope. Even just seeing this printed, I was like, oh, this came out so cool, whatever. And I was giving out. I had a bunch of copies. I printed it was free, so I just printed out like 20 copies, just hand them out whoever the fuck wanted them and whatever. But I also have specific people I want to see. I
Yeah.
remember giving it to Jenny Warren Johnson. I remember I was like super nervous. I was like, oh, because he's like one of my favorite artists that I found the last couple years. Like, oh man, I'm gonna give him my book, and he might show it on his live stream because he shows his books on his live streams. So I was like, oh. And I remember giving him the book, and I also felt weird because like, oh, the line's so long, I don't hope anybody's time, but I was like, fuck you, I'm just gonna go for it. And then I remember him looking at it real quick. All right, do this, do that. You need to fix this. You draw too good to like be doing this. And I was like, oh, he thinks I draw good. Oh, okay. Like, all right. Like, that made me feel good because I was like, all artists had that weird like self-consciousness with their artwork. Like, I don't know if it's good. I don't have too much of that, but I have, just, I have some of that in me.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
man, like, fuck, I don't know if that's just good, but
We're our best villains, man.
yeah,
We beat
100%.
ourselves up. So
Yeah. So
yeah.
I remember just giving a book. He drew through all of it, and he was like, and next time, come back next year with another book, and we'll look at it again. I was like, all right, cool, hell yeah. And then I was like, that's super dope. I gave a couple other people the book, the little ash can and stuff like that. And then the person that really like surprised me and that made me feel like gave me the most energy was Eric Kennedy. I don't know if you know who that is.
Mm-mm.
He's the Ink Pulp podcast.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the bald guy, the one in there, the
Ah,
other
okay.
guy, yeah. So I saw him at his booth, and I was like, "Oh, would you like looking at my book? Would you give me some pointers?" She's like, "Yeah, yeah." So, but the first time I saw him, it was like the end of day one or the end of day two. I don't remember, and I was already fucking pooped because those like I was all, outside of me handing the books out to people. I was standing in long ass lines to get book signs. In the Daniel Johnson line, I was standing for like an hour. Scotty
Yeah.
Young, that shit was like 2 hours. Like I was standing in line, and I'm never doing that again. I went to CGC, got a book graded. It was like another like hour and a half.
Oh man.
It was the worst. But when I saw Eric Kennedy, I gave my book. I was like, you know what? I'll come back tomorrow. When I'm not, about to pass out, we could talk about it and stuff like that. So the following day, I talked to him, and he was, he's like, so what do you want to like get better at? What are you trying to? So I was like, and that was something I didn't think about at the time. I was like, I don't get everything. He's like, well, I can't teach you. If I need something super specific, and so I was like, well, I want to get better, like perspective or like have so he like went to the book, drew all over it, and then he put out a piece of paper. So you want to draw like this, da da da, and he was just super nice, super like kind, and also, and then he also gave me all of the copies of his books that he was selling for free. And I was like,
Wow.
bro, like, and then like I have them right here, and these aren't like just like floppies. These are like
Full on.
hardcover bound. He was selling for like $25 each. He gave them all three of them for free, and I was like, dude, like
Wow.
that gave me a lot of energy and made me feel like, damn, that's real love right there. And I was like, damn, that's crazy. Like, because some
Yeah.
people, you give them the books and they're like, oh, that's cool, keep it up, da da da, whatever, little shorts. But he like took like at least like 10, 15, 20 minutes maybe just talking to me, just like, just do this, do that, da da da. And I was like, man, like that's
Yeah.
crazy. And then I remember after the con and going back home, I was like super amped and pumped to start finishing this book and start working on the next stuff. And then even at the con when I was seeing all these people with their portfolios, like the traditional artwork, I was like, damn, I want to start doing that now because like I'm not like a master of digital art, but like I already have my system down where I already know how I'm gonna
Yeah.
attack this comic. And now I was like, I want to do traditional because next year I want to come back with some more pieces. And then even when I saw you start doing traditional and you start doing commissions and people, that's more is worth more than just somebody just doing like a digital sketch for somebody, right?
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah. Totally.
I was like, damn, I'm gonna start doing that and just start challenging myself and feeling like, like energized from that convention. Also exhausted, like I said, I was standing in all those lines and just, oh man, it was fun though. I just remember leaving there and like feeling good about like what's going on. So that's
Yeah. It
super.
was.
Okay,
It
go
was
ahead.
it was really life changing for real. Like
Mhm.
it was I got to talk to Jim Rugg again. I told him what I had been up to and that I had books finally for him. And because of the year before, I was like, hey man, he just told me like you just got to make the books and just go with it. And I told him like he was a huge inspiration in
Mhm.
2023. I as soon as that event was done, I saw this contest online for like making a Ninja Turtle T-shirt, and I
Yep.
was like,
Oh, that on your blog.
okay.
I was literally just reading about that. But yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So that's where it really got like amped for me because I was like, well, maybe I'll do it. But then I
Mhm.
saw the guest panel, of judges was Kevin Eastman was the
Mhm.
number one guy on it. I was like, well, maybe I'll do it. So I did it and I won that contest, and that's what made me like really like go like okay now I got to feel serious about this. Like this is a big deal for me because one of the guys I've idolized my whole life, watching the turtles, playing with
Yep.
the toys, you name it, saw my work
Yeah.
and deemed it credible. So
Mhm.
that's where I was like, okay, now what's next? So that's where the next level, Brian was like, you should just make books, man. I was like, what's stopping you from doing it? I was like, all right. So I made books. So I got
Yep.
it into Jim's hand as a kind of a thank you. I also gave him one of the t-shirts
Oh
because
yeah.
I finally had
Yeah.
those physical. So I gave
That's
that to
dope.
him there. And he was like, you should go meet with Jim Mahfood and show him
Mhm.
what you're doing. So I met with him, and he was also the same, like with you. He Jim gave me his books for free and a piece of art for free, and that was that
Wow, that's
that
awesome.
that touched me. And me and him, have talked since then, and he's been an incredible, like just you know, extremely humble person, incredible person to reach out to about some stuff, and some other people like Tyrell Cannon. Me and him
Mhm.
already had kind of a relationship because he streams on YouTube, and out of that, we've had a kind of a communication out of that, and
Yeah.
he too's been incredible with
Mhm.
feedback and stuff like that. So these artists, the biggest thing, ones that I've really come to, be inspired by or infatuated by just their work. They are incredibly humble, and also willing to
Mhm.
talk to you. And that's the biggest takeaway that I've had in this last year, and it's been incredible with that.
Yeah, that's dope. Yeah, I talked to Terrell also at the convention. I forgot about that. He was one of the people that talked to me for a little bit longer. Also, he was really dope. I really liked him. I've watched some of his streams as well, and I've read some of his comments. I really like Terrell, and like the same as like it was a really like mind-boggling experience. Like actually getting this feedback and really seeing these creators you've been reading and looking at. And you're like, well, these guys are all really cool guys. They're just really regular dudes that aren't who just really like to draw and who have just been are really really good at drawing, but they're also just like super humble. They're not like super uh, you know, asses or about anything like that. None of them were like, I had a couple like people who were kind of like weird and stuff like that, but like it's it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? At the convention, nobody owes you anything, but like it was nice to get to the people who were like I expected that I really wanted to see were like really like cool. Like Daniel Johnson, like he was so dope and stuff like this. Like, damn, that's super cool. Like he's really like super cool. And Eric, like I said, is super cool. And then, so that was really awesome. And then at the same time, there was something else going on out during Heroes Con, which was the K fam stuff. So
Oh yeah.
how has that been for you being part of the group, being part of these out of nowhere, let's knock out 2 pages or whatever pages today in 24 hours, and then also building the channel with Brian and Vero. So tell me about the K fam stuff and how that's been for you.
Oh, well, it's been really, really incredible how this community kind of came all together under the circumstances, but we've all
Yeah.
been there to drive each other. That's the most
Mhm.
important thing. When I was at HeroCon, it was really great that I got to meet all these artists like actual Dracula. Vero was basically my guide.
Mhm.
You want to talk about someone who is a catalog for knowing the artists and what their work is and stuff like that? She's the one. So, she's been a huge supporter of me and a resource as well, just because she just knows everything. Like, I'm like shocked. Like, I'm like that with movies, but she's like that with comics. So for
Wow.
me, she was like, you need to go see this. You need to go see this guy's work. You need to go see her work. And like, she just knew all those little pieces. And like daily, she'll send me things that's inspiring because we're working on a project and behind the scenes together too.
Dope.
And it's like she's always got little resources like, check this out. This is something for this. This is something for that. And I'm like, man. And beyond that, we're working on the video content. We're
Mhm.
working on the
Yep.
channel content. We're working on the projects that, get the community together to
Mhm.
work on something. We've been doing these 24-hour books just
Yep.
as a way to, are people able to come together to put something together in a coordinated time, because like, look at the industry. When Marvel says you got to put a book out in 2 weeks, baby, somebody's got to be putting that book together.
Yeah.
And
100%.
we want to see if who's able to do that, who are we able to lean on to and get that energy out there. And that's a huge piece of this, is like, we have to collaborate. Me and you, we're working on books together.
Yep.
And guess what? I'm working with this other artist. Not everyone's, and everyone's got different styles, techniques, personalities. The
Mhm.
thing is, can we all come together to create something? And that's the unique experience that we're, doing right now in the K fam. Is like,
Yep.
we've what, 2 or 3 books already done in the year, and we just really started in April.
Like
Well,
the
even
summer, yeah.
yeah, like, so like, this is like, and not even that. Yeah, right. The
Like
actual
July,
projects didn't
especially.
didn't
Yeah.
start till July. So it's about this, thing. Can we work together? Can we make these things happen? And I
Mhm.
know there's going to be a lot of beautiful stuff coming out of all this. So I'm really excited about the projects that we're working on. Brian's a huge, huge core piece to this community. He is the guiding light to everything. We keep him on track to make sure that you guys stay on track,
Mhm.
if that makes sense. Because I was describing it last night. Like, I'm kind of like the Wizard of Oz. I'm working the behind the scenes on the video projects and then my own projects. So
Uh-huh.
once in a while, I'll get the chime in and be like, "Hey, everyone, how's everyone doing?" And then I'm like, "Well, now I got to go back to my other thing."
Yeah, I gotta disappear again, yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I'm always watching, but I'm always like, man, I wish I could say more, but I don't have, sometimes I'm too
yeah,
nose down into
jam-packed.
things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep, I feel the same way. Yeah, I think finding the group for me specifically has also been just, like, really helpful because seeing all these positive voices and minds in this group is just it's just so awesome, you know what I'm saying? Because you go on the internet and you try to go on these other, like, big Facebook groups and stuff like that, this is always drama, drama, this person is like this person's politics, this person's that, and it's just like, "Bro, why can't we just make the art? Why can't we just focus on those things that are more grounded and just that we all are here for," you know what I'm saying? And it doesn't matter how good you draw, it doesn't matter how great you are, how long you've been drawing for. It's just a matter of fact that are we all cool? Can we all just do this and enjoy what we have going on? You know what I'm saying? Like there are people who are like high skill level, low skill level, but it doesn't matter because
Hmm.
it's what we're doing together collectively that's making a positive impact. And then we're also putting these books out together and we're also building each other up towards like people like myself where these tests of like art do pages. It's like, all right, cool. Now it's like I'm working a gear in my brain. We're like, okay, let me see how fast I can do this. It will also do something that I have never done before. Where it's like, I've never drawn Ninja Turtles before. So now let me try to do Ninja Turtle story and let me do it in my own voice that's unique to me, where it's either gonna be kind of cartoony or funny, or I'm gonna do something that's more like grungy or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So something like that, or like the troll page where I was like trying to be like kind of funny but edgy, you know what I'm saying? And stuff
Hmm.
like that, where it's like it's hitting these different facets that I would probably naturally progress to get to, but might take me longer to think of those things. Whereas now it's like, okay, here's this guy's idea. Now
Yeah.
let's everybody try the input on this book and see what we can come up with and stuff like that. So I think it's
Yeah.
really, really awesome that we're able to do that. And then also with the channel, with Brian being the host of like the Power of the Panel like thing, he's really open like for me specifically, like my mindset of like not just being comics, but just in art in general of like, don't like behold yourself to certain things. Just go and do it, and just this is how you can kind of do it like this, or think about it this way, or think about it this way, and stuff like that. You don't really see too much online right now where people are like, oh, if you want to be in Marvel, you got to draw like this, or you want to do manga, you got to do this. Where it's like, no, you know what? You can go make a book for the library and you make $1,000, and then you can make that money to do this, which is something that I remember like was really stuck out to me with those podcasts and stuff like this. Like, I never thought about that. I never thought about like getting a grant, or I never thought about maybe I can do a book for this little whatever platform
Yeah.
real quick, and then use that money or whatever that to put into my own stuff and stuff like that. Where I was like, for me, it was like, okay, I'm gonna like, for instance, right now, what I'm doing is this YouTube channel, which at the same time as Heroes Con and all this stuff has started getting more traction. That's why I started getting all my views and started getting a lot of subscribers. 2-3 months ago, I only had like 200 subscribers. I don't know what happened, but I started dropping videos consistently, and I started, getting more popular, whatever. And
Hmm.
so now, so it's just kind of like good energy from Heroes, the channel blowing up, and now I'm in the group. So it's kind of like everything's kind of going coinciding to like something more of a net positive for me, and then meeting all you guys, which is so cool. So I
Yeah.
just think it's awesome that y'all are putting into the channel, y'all are helping Brian and helping with the editing, doing the thumbnails, and it looks professional. Everything is so cohesive, and it just out of nowhere. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't make any sense how a lot of people are able to cohesively live or be around at the same time and not anything going on so far. I think it's awesome, man. I
Yeah.
love it. I love everything about it.
Yeah, with the projects, it's taking people out of their comfort zones, right? So that's
100%.
that's a big piece of it. It's like I come from a background with film, and if you're in the film industry long enough, you've worked on 48-hour film projects, which is like typically like little local cities do these like once a year, and I participated in those all the time for about a good steady of 6 to 7 years when I
Hmm.
was starting out in film. And what that was basically like boot camp every single time.
Yep.
The way those programs work is you get in there, you draw out a genre, they give you all these lists of things that need to be in the thing, like a type of character, a prop, and a word. And you pick the genre, like, oh, I got horror this time, or sci-fi, and it takes you out of your comfort zone of like, can I accomplish this? Some of the best
Yeah.
projects that I worked on were mockumentary. Like, I
Hmm.
didn't think that would be something that I'd like, but the project that we came up with ended up being better than something that most people will probably want to lean into, something like horror, suspense, or something like that for a project. So it takes you out of your element, and you are able to craft something out of there. And that same principles are being applied in the comic industry, or in the K-fam industry right now.
Hmm.
So when we're looking at it, like you said, you never did a turtle. Now, guess what? You've done a turtle. And you can
Yep.
say that, like, if you feel comfortable or you want to keep pursuing doing that thing. I did the troll call thing that's going to be rolling out as well. What was that? That is me doing something completely opposite of what I normally do traditionally in my work,
Uh-huh.
but it's something I'm experimenting with. Can I do something that's more cartoony? Can I do something that feels more like this? When I was talking to Jim Rugg at the previous two Heroes Con, the big thing that we talked about was like how Marvel and these other guys are always been like, hey, you got to have consistency in your artwork and things like that. But he's like, at the end of the day, if you're telling a fun story and engaging with people, look at Street Angel. Street Angel is different each time.
Yep.
There's a painterly
Hmm.
look in some. There's more sketched out
Pencils.
versions,
Yep.
black.
Hmm.
For him, it's about the experience, the medium itself. And that's what I am trying to feel when I'm putting these stories together. I want to
Yep.
experience the different paper. That's why I can even notice like my quality on traditional is different digitally. And I'm trying to figure out how can I bring more of that towards the digital side? How can I do that? Of
Yep.
course, right now the emulation isn't perfect yet. And there's other people who are masters at it. Great.
Yep.
I'm not there yet, and I'm
Hmm.
working harder to get better at that, because I'm like, man, pencil and paper. I just started drawing on pencil and paper, and I hadn't done that in years. And boy, I feel this. It just feels much better.
Yep. 100%.
And like that Jar Jar Binks picture I did the other day,
Oh, yep.
like,
Super dope.
and I did a little sketch of it first before I did it, and here it is.
Hmm.
Like I did a 5x7. Like, I need to make this at least a 9x12. Can I accomplish that in this size? And I was like, you know what? I can make this work here. I know I can make it work at that other size. So it's that type of experience that, like, I can't do that quite yet in digital, because I feel like
Uh-huh.
it's not as tight. for me. I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know how to explain it other than that. Like I feel like
Oh,
digital.
yeah, 100%.
I'm more loose in digital, but my penmanship and traditional work is much tighter, even though there's a fluidness there still too. So I feel like that we're all learning together. We're all creating these things together at this time, and it's a wonderful experience. And Brian being there to help guide us. Me having Vero to rely on for resources and her dedication to the projects and getting everything project managed. She's turning all us wandering artists into a true community of a company almost. So that's what's been really wonderful to see that's been happening.
Yeah, it is wonderful. It is awesome just to see all, like I said, how everything is cohesively just gluing together into something that could be a solid foundation, into where people are just rolling out single books that are just, they have the imprint of K-Fan. When I saw, what was that book? It's called the Possum book. Oh man, I forgot the
Oh,
title.
Play Dead.
Yeah, Play Dead. And I saw the cover. I was like, oh man, and I saw the K-Fan thing. I was like, oh, that is super dope. And then even the um sorry, dude's name is the Ghost and the Cat book. I'm sorry, I don't know the
Oh,
name. But he just
Tyler.
Heller's book. Yep, and the same thing with the K-Fam imprint on it. I'm like, yeah, that's super cool. So now I'm thinking like, maybe I might, maybe throw one book in there just for the hell of it. And the same thing with the same thing I feel with you, the traditional digital splits, whereas like I'm doing the same thing where I've gotten sketchbooks and I'm filling them out, and I did this sketches like for my ultra mega piece, and then I
Yeah.
got I sketch it out, and then I have you know I got my portfolio now, and I'm freaking trying to fill it in with just a bunch of just pieces. Like this is the max piece I did, and I'm like, oh, that's super dope. And
Hmm.
let me see, I'll show you the ultra mega one. There's a bunch of Batmans too. But I'm just waiting for my printer to get here, so I can so I can start scanning all of it in. But
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then the feeling of just like doing traditional compared to
Hmm.
digital is just so much. Especially like I said, like I do the blue line, and like even when I would do digital, like the blue line to the ink, it was just so a gratifying feeling. And now it's even like 10 times more with just doing like the traditional. So this is what I was just showing in the sketchbook. So like now I got the ultra mega piece and stuff like that. And so it is a cool evolution to see. You grow and you grow, and you're just like, okay, I want to break out my comfort zone and stuff like that. And like I said, seeing you doing that is super cool, because I feel like we're in the same wavelength, where we're kind of like progressing the same way. And I think it's
We,
really cool.
we look like we're in the same room right now too.
Yeah,
we
right.
got
It's
the
like
same. We got like the same colors.
color,
Like.
yeah. That's super cool, man. But yeah, it's just dope. I'm like, your comics are super cool. I love, like I said, the silence aspect of it. I love even like with the ones that do have some dialogue. There's like really meaningful like things there, like with the Master Splinter book, where it's like about his family and like the whole story of just family. And I can relate to that because I am a father also, and I have
Mhm.
kids, and I'm married, stuff like that. And then even with the Godzilla book, where it's like, how does it feel to be isolated and feel like you're just the biggest baddest person there, but like you have nobody to show it to, it stuff
Yeah.
like that. So I think you have a real strong voice. I think the way you're making these comics is really super dope. So like after you're done with this next Batman book, are you what's next for you? What are you have do you have an original IP or ideas that you have formulated in your brain that you want to show up do next, or are you gonna try to do another bootleg stuff? So what do you got going on next, Jeremy?
So the next thing is, besides like little, things here and there, I
Hmm.
do have my 2025 already kind of mapped out, and it will
Yep.
be an original story
Hmm.
that I've been plugging away at, R&Ding it throughout the year. I'll come up with this, I'll come up with that moment, and everything's being kind of just packaged over here as this is what's going to happen for my 2025. So if I finish this book, I know probably late, probably December is when I'll probably start drawing that book out, and I probably won't release it till probably mid of 2025, at least the first
Okay.
half of
It's gonna be a
stuff.
long book.
Yeah, it's going to be. I don't know if you saw we were talking about perspective of what Brian's bringing to it. He did an episode recently that really made me think about it even more. Was the $1,000 idea?
Yep.
Everyone has $1 million book,
Hmm.
and then $10,000 books, thousand. So now I've got everything categorized like in film, like low budget, high budget. I am swinging for the fences and trying to do a high budget book.
Yep.
This I think, with these right here, if they were able to get me some visibility, I want the next one to be like, oh, I'm coming out swinging hard. and I want people
Yeah.
to know what I'm capable of. And then maybe the next book after that will be that low budget indie.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
I want people to see that I can do that MCU level of a book, but with my thematic, storytelling and stuff like that involved with it. So I want it to be action paced, but I also want it to be high drama and things like that. So this is kind of an idea that's been stewing in my head anyway for a while. It actually, before I got back into comics, I was thinking of it as a game, because
Okay,
I was like, I
okay.
always entertained the idea of games. I was like, man, I really love to do that, but I just don't have the programmer's mindset to learn
Mhm.
CSS plus
Oh, yeah, it's
and all that
classic.
stuff. I've always loved being able to hack ROMs and pixel art and stuff like that. But I was like, you know what? There's a seed here, and I'm gonna carry that seed with me. And that thing's been floating around in my head for about 10 years. So I'm like, all right, I could either do this book, this book, this book. I decided to land on this one for now because, like I said, I want to swing hard, and I want to be able to show off what I can do in this storytelling, with something with some high drama and action. So that's what I'm going to be working on in 2025. And then there's some other projects that I'm working on in the back. I think Vero mentioned it today. If you're in the K fam stuff,
Yeah.
she mentioned that we're working on a project together, and we're excited about that too. We're kind of that'll be more of a anthology type thing. So
Okay, it's dope.
what comes out of that, that's something that we're slowly just going to keep adding throughout the year. So maybe once I get a little burnt out on the other book, I'll put a few pages towards that book,
Okay.
and just kind of that way we keep ourselves going, so we're not completely just worn out, because you're going to get worn out looking at the same thing every single day.
Yeah,
I
100%.
It happens with the Batman books.
Yep.
I'm always looking at them like, I got to get through this damn Batman book, and then
Yeah, I
the
feel
next
the
thing I'm
same way.
like, it's time to do the next Batman book.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way. That's dope, man. That's awesome. Yeah, I feel the same way with that. Like when I'm at like the last like those last like 5 pages, you're just like, oh my god, I need to finish these books, but I don't want to do this shit no more. But you're just like, let me knock it out. I feel the same way. But that's dope, man. I feel like having the next thing always on the back of your mind, what you're gonna do next is always important because then you get stuck in like a weird like limbo of like,
What's next?
excuse me, but where like you're just like, oh, I don't want to do this no more. I don't know what to do. Like right now, I'm like in this weird limbo where like I haven't like I'm like I did like the first half of the thumbnails for my next book, and then I kind of like took a couple weeks off, and I'm like, oh, I feel kind of weird. Let me get back into doing something that's more productive of drawing because that's just my natural state. What I want to do is continue doing pages and drawing comics and stories and stuff like that.
So you
So
jumped. So you jumped in with Spider-Man. So can you tell me a little bit why you went that route?
so the same as you, like I just was like, all right, let me do something that people are gonna get their attention on. I don't have to think too much about world building and stuff like that. The concept was like, okay, let me. So what happens when Peter Parker, like, say Peter Parker never got over the death of Gwen Stacy, and he has the
Mhm.
back symbiote? What in real life? What would really happen? He's gonna go nuts. He's gonna lose his mind because on top of the fact that he's grieving, he's dealing with this super, like he's on steroids with the black symbiote suit. So I was like, I'm gonna just do that, and I'm gonna have the characters that I like to draw. So I mean, I don't know if you've read it, but I've
Mhm.
had Wolverine in there. I had I put Lady Pool in the second part. I put characters that I just wanted to see draw, and then my goal for that one was to do really dynamic, posing. Just I love superhero stuff, so I want to do super cool superhero stuff. I wanted to just draw, just go for the gusto as far as skill wise, and then from the page one to the last page, I felt like, oh, this is pretty good. It looks really good. Like I really loved it. Like I really like it. And then like I said, getting the it felt good enough to, all right, now I'm gonna see if I can make some sales. Let me see if I can sell this book to people. And like I got I'm damn near sold out of all the copies. Only had 20,
Nice.
but like that's still from
That's something.
yeah, what I'm saying? From the beginning of the year, I was like, I don't think I can sell any of this shit. To now, I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I got some traction, stuff like that. And then even when I was watching the podcast with you, Vero, and Brian, and you were talking about building your mailing list, right? And I've heard this the whole time, like when I got into making comics, and I'm more like cerebral, also with not just with the art, but like, okay, how am I going to be successful, And so a lot of people are like, would say a mailing list is like one of the most important things you need to have, because people, like, if you get a big mailing list, a lot of people, they gravitate towards that, or having like a good blog or whatever. So I was like, I had my website, but I was like, I don't know how to get people to subscribe, And so when I first made my website, I had it more of like one of those websites where you just go and you just read the manga, like those piratey manga websites where you just go and you just
Yeah.
read all the manga and scroll through and go to the next one. So that's how I had it formatted at first. But then I saw how you were talking about downloads, right? Getting downloads, because when somebody downloads your book, they're essentially signing up for your mailing list without
Yeah.
them, because they're paying
Yeah.
for it. And you get their email, and the website save it for you. So now I'm like, okay, I did that. So now when I went from, now you can either buy the physical copy or you can get the download for free. And
Hmm.
so, people are gonna buy it, or they're just gonna download it for free, because some people don't, they don't know yet if they like, they want to put their money towards you. So
Hmm.
I went from having probably like 10 people in my mailing list to like now probably like 30 something people, 40 people. I'm like, that's dope, because now it makes sense to, how you just, and then I re-uploaded one of my older comics from the beginning of this year on there as a PDF. So now I was like, go download it. It's free. And then
Yep.
you're doing me a favor passively without even knowing, because now, I have this mailing list. So with the Spider-Man thing was just like, people, like I said, people recognize these characters and they're going to want to be drawn towards that, saying if you see like a cool fan art or something you like, you're gonna automatically just want to see that more. So I thought, let me do that. Same thing
Yeah.
with the Batman. They did Batman, and so that was kind of
That's
exact.
incredible.
Yeah, because even before, because I was never really into like fan stuff. I always feel like I had stories I could tell. I have a whole list of bunch of stories that I have. Like I would just be like, okay, this is cool. I see, and I write a little plot, and then when I'm done with one project, I'm like, I'm gonna do this one next, or I'm gonna do this one next, and so and then, like how you said, there's and Brian was saying in the other, the $1,000, $100. I have my like $1,000,000 idea, which is the series I was working on last year. But like I said, I didn't feel like what I wanted out of it, I wasn't capable of giving yet. I already
Hmm.
have the story down, already have like how I want everything to look, and the world built is just like, I need to get my skills up. So that's why this year was just all training. It's like my training arc, I guess. Just knocking out short stories, knocking out these concepts, knocking out things that I want to test out in these books. And also, I knew this year I was like, okay, I want to build up an audience. So I'm gonna go hard on YouTube. I'm going to, just practice drawing. I'm gonna do things that are outside of my comfort zone, which is doing fan comics, doing, whatever reels, and like I said, YouTube and stuff like that, putting myself out there
Hmm.
more in a more tangible way. So that was kind of like my goal
That's
was, and
great.
I'm getting there so far. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're really busting it. And that's what it's about. I think a lot of it comes down to how much work ethic you put into it because,
100%.
there's some people who are like, yeah, I want to do this thing, but you never see them actually do the thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yep.
And, it comes down to like Ed and Jim and Brian are like, you should just do it. And everyone else that, that's doing it is always like, yeah, if you want to make comics, you just got to make the
Just got to
comics.
start.
And that's the thing, we see growth through that. I mean, look at like how Berserk started, that book. The
Yep.
art style, is really rough around the edges, but by the end, before he passed, it's the most beautiful artwork you've ever seen in a book.
100%. Yeah.
And you're like, what in the world? Like he developed, and a lot of these artists,
Mm-hmm.
like the Bizarre JoJo guy,
Yeah.
his rough around the edges. Now look at it. Now it's distinct style. Like
I mean, yeah,
these
look at
people
when Ryan
develop,
Otley started on Invincible to his last pages. There is like night and day, So
right?
yeah, that's just kind of like what my goal is. Like after I'm done, like doing like I'm gonna try to do maybe like 2 more, 3 more, like just short stories, and then once I feel comfortable with my artwork, I'm gonna go back into that long form story, which is it's gonna be like my opera, like my Star Wars, my Invincible superhero story that I want to do, because I think once I'm able to get into that mode of just knocking out for like a long form story, because that's what I really like. I really like superhero stuff. I really like
Hmm.
long form stories. Like Invincible is like one of my biggest inspirations of all time. Even
Okay.
before the show, all that stuff, that was like
Yeah,
one of
yeah,
my
yeah.
first comics I got into back in middle school. And so now, like that's like the biggest inspiration for this series that I've had since I was little. It was like one of the series that when you're a little kid, like, oh, I'm gonna do this and that. Is that series, but it's cultivated over the years and stuff like that. And then when I started doing it, I was proud that I was like, oh, I'm able to knock out these chapters. I developed these characters and it looks cool. I mean, for me, but I'm like, oh, this isn't what I want. Like I want to draw this type of sequence, but I can't do that yet because my skills are not there. And I want to do the art and I want to tell the story. That's my goal.
Yeah.
So
You're
that's why.
you're a you're a director looking for the right cinematographer, and that's where you're at right now. You're
Mhm, mhm.
you're trying to figure out your vision and how can you translate that to the page. And
Yep.
you're not ready yet. And
Mhm.
that's a good thing that you ideally see. You're working towards that goal because you want to be like Oda, the One Piece guy. That
Yep.
guy's had that idea since he was in middle school. And look, he's what? How many? I mean, I know how many episodes he's got. I'm like, bro,
Chapters. Yeah.
how many books is that? The dude, when you have that idea and if you
Mhm.
want it the way you want it, you got to wait till you're ready to tell it. And that's
100%.
that's a smart choice on your half, saying, you know what, only the whole wait. I mean, I wish we all could be like one, what's his name, who drawed One Punch Man,
Yeah, and then got yeah,
but then he found that,
yeah.
like we all need that sometimes, but that's smart on your half, knowing like I'll be ready for this story when I'm ready. And that's
Mhm.
what you got to do. And this is where you build up everything else. This is the boot camp for yourself, is these short stories, these where you're defining your craft, your style. And I that growth will eventually adapt to your epic.
Yeah, 'cause I remember, I don't remember who said it, but I remember I was watching a podcast or somebody, and they were like, it was a comic book one, and they were just like, if the idea is the shit, just move on, because like you can just go back to it, whatever. Like you don't be beholden to like what you got going on. If it's not working, it's not working. Just move on to the next thing. And that's how I felt. I mean, like I was getting people who were reading it, whatever, and I was getting like fan art. It was cool, and like I said, I did it for a year, and then you'll get a natural just growth that people are just be intrigued with it. But like my own self was just like, nah, like I can do better. And so,
Mhm.
and like I said, I want to be the artist who's going to do it. I want to be the writer. I want to be the person who's going
Yeah,
to do it. That's just like my own self thing, because it's my story that I want to tell.
yeah,
So yeah, like I said, like you're right. Like I'm trying to find the vision. I'm trying to find the right cinematographer, or whatever, director of photography, which is myself. But like
yeah,
I find my right voice, my right skills and stuff like that. And also like there's no rush either. You know what I'm saying? I'm still fairly young for
yeah.
the most part, and most people
Oh
don't
yeah,
hit their like peak or pinnacle as artists until they're like late 30s to 40s, unless you're like some crazy outlier who's like Rob Liefeld at 17, whatever the cases and stuff like that.
yeah.
So
The
that's
way
just
the way
kind of what I'm doing.
the way
Yeah.
I've always looked at it, we in my head I always had a preconceived notion of, oh, you had to hit it when you're 27, because you see like people like Michael Jordan, you see
Mm,
like Steven Spielberg, they all hit this moment like at the magic number of like 27. But
yep.
after I hit that, there was a low point in my life. But now I think about, really, Scott didn't make Alien until he was 40, and then like the dude's still cranking them out, and
Yep.
he's 80 something years old. So we have to let time happen when we're ready to tell the stories. Like if I was telling the stories now at 20, I don't think it would have had the craft that I was looking for at my near 40-year-old. I just
Hmm.
turned 39 last week. So
Yeah.
I'm I'm more experienced in storytelling based on my career. So now I'm just placing it in a different medium. And
Yeah.
that's the way I'm looking at it. Like, hey, if I can't film like I used to, due to like chronic pain and all the stuff that I go through,
Hmm.
let me bring it back to the medium that I was happy with growing up. And you know what? It's bringing joy back to my life, being able to draw it out, and that's because I have full control, and that's something
Yep.
that you can't
100%.
can't take that away. So
Yeah, and even you have like a more emotional and mental maturity that life lessons and stuff like that you learned that you can put into your story, which will make it a more solid piece of art and stuff like that. And which is, like I said, like I don't, for me, it's like it's always like I always sum it up to like a 5 year plan, right? You know what I'm saying? Like
mhm.
there's like 10,000 hours. Like for me, it's like 5 year plan. So it's like the first year is like figuring out what you want to do. Second year is like, okay, how am I going to do it? Third year is like, okay, I know what I'm going to do. Now let me get better at it. And those last 3 years is like getting better and better. By the fifth year is like, okay, let's get it done. You know what I'm saying? Like so, like my first few years was like, okay, let me pick up an iPad and an Apple Pencil and see what I can do with it. Let me build up this let me like all right, so my second year was like, okay, who was successful and how do I mimic what they're doing? So that's how I felt like the K Fam channel. That's how I found Daniel Johnson. That's how I found these other people on YouTube that I started looking and I'm trying to emulate. So now I'm in year three, which is like, okay, now I'm gonna start my own channel and I'm going to build an audience, because for me, what I want to do in the long term goal is to have a sustained like cult following of people who every time I drop a book, I'm selling 1,000 books without
Yeah,
any big publishing, like, and stuff like that. And I'm not like trying to be, oh, I'm gonna live off my art, live off my money. I don't like that's not what I want to do, especially since now I have a family, I have kids. I wouldn't do that to them and be like, art, like 1 month I'm making $2,000, next month I'm making no, say I'm not gonna do that,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I want to be able to passively sustain a comic book career on my own. Like, what's that guy's name? Terry Moore, who just Strangers in Paradise. He didn't show up into like the industry until he was like in his late 30s, where he already had like I don't know what he was doing before, but he already had like money. He already had some sort of stability in his life to where it's like now I can just do comics and not have to worry too much about whatever the hell. So that's kind of like what I want to do. And
yeah.
like doing building up this YouTube is kind of like my main thing. Whereas like I've seen people who like I followed like 2 years ago who were like, a couple thousand followers on YouTube to now they're getting deals with Dark Horse. They're doing, they drop a book on certain websites to get millions of views, and that's simply because of YouTube or like them. It's a form of marketing where it's just like a big thing. People in these space like, oh, I don't want to market, I don't want to learn how to do it. But I always feel like I'm gonna learn how to do it. If y'all don't want to do it, I'm gonna learn how to do it because I'm gonna do it. So like
Yeah.
seeing like my YouTube gradually grow. I mean, the last 2 months I've gotten like 1,400 subscribers. You know what I'm saying? I'm getting
Wow.
videos where I'm getting a lot of views. Even before that, like when I only had like 200-300 views, I was still getting like 1,000 views. I was like, oh, like let me see. And I've been studying YouTube a lot as alongside of studying comics and manga and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it was good to like finally get like some sort of attraction of what I'm doing and seeing like I'm moving to the right direction. So
Yeah. Marketing is a big piece of it. You can be the most incredible storyteller, but if no one's telling your story on your behalf, you got to do it yourself. And that's the thing. Like you're doing the right thing by having a channel, getting your voice out there to let people know that these stories exist. That'll become in a big play once I start doing my IPs. Like, I've done more of a grassroots, like, hey, check out my work here, connecting,
yep,
the social connection that way. But eventually, with that newsletter and things like that, the people that are actually really interested in my work are there. I'll be able
yep,
to tell them, they'll be able to share it, and that's
mhm,
where we can keep,
yep,
this continual growth. And that's the exciting part. Is I think a lot of artists, they might be the hard A artists, but
yep,
when it comes down to it, they need to make sure that they are also thinking about financially, like how to market and try to find sustainability.
100%.
If that's if their true goal is to be that, I'm fortunate enough to have my day job, which I enjoy doing. I still get to do video production and marketing and stuff like that, and that's what I've been doing the last 10 years. I'm a creative director for a company.
Yep,
So I'm taking what I've done in that space and applying it through my work, and that'll be something that I do uh, for the future books and everything else after that. So I have some really good, I have some fun ideas that I'm going to do with my IP to build up anticipation and stuff like that. Because I will have like a 6 months of like sitting on something, but I'm not going to be sitting on it. I'm going to be
yeah,
like, you know, dropping,
yeah,
drop.
Sean, yeah. I mean, and you're even, I mean, even now with the YouTube, like I said, you're working behind the scenes on the KFam channel. You're actually, so you're seeing in real time, like what's working for your channel, what's popular, what's not. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if are you in the YouTube like Studios app and like looking at
Oh yeah.
this, yeah, so that's what
So
I've been
me,
doing too, and
yeah.
just like looking at all this stuff. Okay, so this kind of works. Okay, this gonna work. All right, I dropped this video. This video only got a couple hundred views. Why is that? Why
Hmm.
is is it the thumbnails? Is it the title? Is it this? Is it that? And that's like the real cerebral thing. And then also it translates to comics where it's like, okay, the thumbnail is what draws people into the video. So it's the same for cover art. So what in this cover art can I do to make it more eye popping for people to be like, oh, let me look at that. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you have a pink cover. That's kind of like, and then those all those elements they correlate. And even with my videos are scripted, so I write a lot, and so that's working my other part of my brain to where now I can start when I go into and I don't just write, I do research. Like I'm doing like literary peer review, essays on
Hmm.
my for my videos and stuff. So that can also translate towards the scripting portions of my comics and stuff like that. But yeah, so
And then like with my website, the way
mhm,
I have it set up is I can see what people are viewing.
yep,
So I can see how many people have read each book. So for me, what does that show me? It shows me a couple things. So with my last book, I'm already up to over almost 1,000 views, and it hadn't even been a week yet.
that's dope,
Um,
man. That's good.
so for me, I'm seeing that escalation. I'm seeing the interest keeps rising. My first book, I think the Batman Snow, it's about 2,500 views, but each
Hmm.
the this one right here the
Uh,
is at almost at 2,000.
that's awesome.
And then but then I saw the next hit, which was Rain, is already at 18,000. So I could see it keep growing, and then Godzilla's at 15, and
Okay, yeah,
now the other
hmm,
one's already at 1,000.
yeah,
Like it's
you're past it. Yep.
it's crushing, it's growing exponentially, and that's what I I'm seeing what books people are interested in that way. I'm seeing which ones in my emails when I send out my newsletter, which ones are getting the most clicks, interest that way.
Mhm.
And I can see that when I'm doing these limited uh, presses that I'm doing, where I'm like, hey, I'm going to drop 60 books. And that's what I usually do with my limited runs. Like, I give away 60 books for free.
Okay.
And I like to see how long it takes. The first book I dropped, the Snow, took about 2 to 3 days for it to dry out. And I was like, okay, cool, 3 days. Now it's like less than 45 minutes. I'm sold
Yeah,
out.
I was wondering. I was like, bro, I got the notification. I woke up in the morning. I was like, oh man, it's already sold out. Fuck, man.
And I've been doing different times. Like, I've been
Mhm.
experimenting with, like, okay, well, what if I drop this at 2 a.m., 12,
Yep.
or noon? Is
Mhm.
the experience going to be different? Who's the audience? Like, I got a lot of international people. Like, I got a lot of people that are peaking from the West Coast, Texas. So it's like these people are like waiting for drops to happen. Unfortunately, some of the East Coasters either have to stay up late,
Yeah.
but I'm up late already because I think our friend V, Vlad, he saw it and he's like, "Yo, I've been waiting." He's like, it's like when you're waiting for the Christmas drop or the next
Mhm.
PlayStation. I was like,
Yeah.
man, that feeling to me is the incredible part. Is like people anticipating my work, and that's
Yeah.
what I love.
That's dope, man. That's awesome. Yeah, and I've been, like I said, I've been inspired. Like I went to your website. I'm like looking at, and that's how I'm kind of like doing. I'm gonna try to like correlate my website similar to yours, where it's like you can download the book, or here's some of my original art, here's some of this, and sign up for the newsletter. Okay, and then I'm gonna add like, all right, go check out my YouTube, stuff like that.
Yeah,
All this stuff, it all makes sense, and it all works together seamlessly if you know how to put it together. And I think that you kind of you're starting to, you have it together, and you're starting to just get more and more traction and stuff like that, which is super dope, man. I can't wait to see what the next book is, and then the original idea, because I know what you're doing is Batman stuff is cool, but I can already see what your own original vision is going to be, because like you have that eye, you have that voice, and I think that's going to be super dope. But yeah, I don't want to hold you up too late. But if anything else left to say, man, you can, you know,
no, man, I appreciate you allowing me to come on here, having a chat with you, get to
yeah,
finally like formally meet you and talk to you.
yeah, 100%.
This cool, man. We should get back together, and definitely when we're at Heroes Con again, we need to get up, man.
Yeah, 100%, man. But all right, so I'm gonna stop the stream. I appreciate you. Appreciate you giving me your time, and this Tuesday night. Yeah,
All
thanks,
right,
man.
thank you, everyone.
Yep. See y'all.
Later.
All right.